All right, recording has started.
Perfect. Thank you, Davey. Well, hey, good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone, and welcome to the public REST APIs roadmap for Blackboard Learn. Today, we will talking about what's coming next with our REST APIs for Learn. So please confirm that you can see the screen, and we will dive in. For this opportunity, I will take you through the roadmap. For those who may not be familiar, I'm Camilo Dominguez, and I've been part of the product team for 2.5 years now. Let me give a brief overview of my journey here. I began with different products, working on various features on Ultra, gaining a deep understanding of the product. And about a year and a half ago, I transitioned to the integrations team, where I have the opportunity to collaborate with Dominic Gore and Mark on it. You know that guy. And as you can imagine, their guidance and expertise has been invaluable for me. And when Mark retired last year, I took over the reins of API development from product perspective. And just recently, I have the pleasure of leading the development portal team. Well, here is safe to say that I'm continuing with Mark legacy while I'm introducing a fresh approach based on company's vision. And before we dive into the roadmap, I would like to share a memorable snapshot of Mark bending the farewell to the team. This is a picture that he shared last session here. So, well, you can see there. Well, I think that I'm having some. Okay, perfect. Well, as this is the roadmap, we will talking about things that are a little further out, so in our timeline, and we are just subject to changes. But before we dive, I did want to give you a quick reminder of how roadmaps work. We generally think about the roadmap in three different horizons. 1 to 3 months, very high confidence. The 3 to 6 months, pretty high confidence changes can happen. Plus 6 months, still pretty good idea of the temex that we have here, but changes will happen based on feedback and input that we have. And you will see this time horizons reflected on the roadmap today. So let's get started with the session today. In terms of time, and as David mentioned, and with your cooperation, we have a dedicated time at the end of the meeting for questions and answers. However, please feel free to share any comment or related thought via chat through the presentation. Today, as always, and thank you, Davey, I'm joined by Davey for support, as well as Fernando, that is our dev manager for the team that is working with the APIs, and Edgar, that is our tech lead for the team. So we are all here to ensure that we address all your needs. So let's begin by reviewing the progress made in last quarter. For rubrics, it serves as crucial tool for instructors, ensuring consistency in grading. So with our enhanced set of APIs, now developers can perform a full spectrum of grouped operations for rubrics. We can create, read, update, and delete a streamline evaluation process. Additionally, we have introduced endpoints for create and update rubric evaluations for gradable items associated with a rubric. And furthermore, our APIs now support the management of rubrics associations for various courses, including tests, assignments. Well, in assignments, we exclude questions. We have also grading discussions and individual questions. This is only for original courses. And we have here that we are offering comprehensive group operations for all these associations. Next, in course communications, announcements are crucial for timeline information sharing. And we have improved the announcement API by adding the creator parameter. This enhancement reveals the user IDs for both course and system announcements. So we are promoting greater transparency in course communication via API. Here, as you can see, each item includes a link to the release notes for further details. So I want to highlight that stay informed and anticipate updates in future releases. Just link it or addressing to the release notes for Learn. We are adding all the releases that we have for the APIs in the release notes for Learn. So for the oncoming 1 to 3 months time horizon, we have the following items that we currently working and the team is scoping. For announcements, we are introducing search and filtering options for in where users can filter announcements based on creation and modification dates and search by availability. You know that the announcements can enable or disable according to the options that we select as administrators. And this functionality aims to improve information management and retrieval efficiency by minimizing unnecessary data retrieval. So next we have in attendance. I remember that last session that Mark mentioned that this is one of the first microservices that we built for Learn, and we build the APIs for this microservice at the beginning of all this history. So we are improving now that we have the opportunity to include mod fields to validate and to validate the information that is retrieved for the different endpoints that we currently have. And we are introducing insert date and update date fields for market attendance records. These fields will include detailed date and time logs, the stamp data. So with these operations available, developers could gain access to create, retrieve, update, and delete group attempts. Sorry, and to create to retrieve all the information that we have related with the attendance in logs for accurate monitoring and attendance history. Next one, for attempt submissions, we have now the capability to enhance our groups API. And as I have mentioned previously, we have the capability to create, retrieve, update, delete group attempts. So it will be introduced all the CRUD operations, significantly improve the managing group attempts. And the goal that we have here is provide a finer control and flexibility to manage groups. And this is what we have currently in work. When we mention now, when we mention 1 to 3 months, that means that we are going to have those projects before June, and we are going to have this available on production on July and maybe August months. Next, looking ahead to the next 3 to 6 months, here what's on the horizon, and continuing our focus on groups, we will introduce the full CRUD capability operation for group attempts grading. As you saw, and as you see, so in the last slide, we are working now in the attempts for groups. Now we are adding the correspondent attempts grading for that API. So we continue with the whole API for groups, enhancing the API capabilities. These enhancements will enable users to create, as you know, read, update, and delete attempts grades for groups assessments. Currently, we have the capability for make the same for single student assessments. So now we are going to have for group assessments to evaluate the performance of each group accurately. For Gradebook, I know that this is some important items that we have. Gradebook is one of the most used features in Ultra courses, and one is most or one of the most common features to improve each week or each day in where we are working with different teams like Frederick working on Gradebook, working on all the new capabilities for flexible grading, all the new. So we want to have all these capabilities on the APIs. Now we more exactly have the Gradebook API in where lacks the capability to manage grading exceptions for the student assessment. So this is like a tech dev that we had there. Our goal here is to enhance the gradebook capability to accommodate grading exceptions for students, specifically focus on extension due days, allowing additional attempts, and providing more flexibility grading options to meet student needs via API. Here we have a focus that we are going to start by addressing exceptions for student assessments before we extending these enhancements to group assessments. So this is going to be in the same quarter, but is not going to be in the same release. Next, we will work on the integration for progress tracking into our portfolio of APIs. Significantly, we are focused on provide monitoring capabilities for non-participatory items. Remember that for progress tracking, we have participatory items and non-participatory items. The difference here is that the tracking that the features make in Ultra for each of them of these items are different. When we have participatory items, we automatically make the progress of this of each item. But for non-participatory items, we need to manually go back as a student and mark the content that we complete. So in this opportunity, this involves the creation of an API that will provide the user with the ability to retrieve and update the student program status for those types of items via API. Also, we will provide the capability to retrieve all the information related. Following we have learning modules. For learning modules, we know how crucial are for organizing educational content within Ultra. And our goal here is to offer the complete route, to offer the create, update, and delete operations for learning modules. This implies not only providing users to create, retrieve, and update delete modules, but also to fine-tuning settings related with the modules management. Something that we have for learning modules is the capability that we are going to have to manage the content within a learning module. So we are continue working on this. We are see how we can how what is the feedback that we receive and how we can split this to cover all the needs that we have in the use cases. So this is pretty much for the current plan and that we have for the 3 to 6 months. So what's coming next? Plus 6 months. Well, happily we have a lot of work ahead of us, and the following items are part of our plan. I will share them with you to keep everyone on track, and I will anticipate that we have some discussion about several of these items. As I mentioned, Terry, earlier in this space, those I know that those are important items that we should take into account, but unfortunately, we have to make some prioritization regarding with the building blocks. So now we are finishing the work of covering up for building blocks, and we were able to go back to the to our original roadmap. And I'm not talking about the legacy courses. I'm talking just the roadmap that we have before building blocks. So we are going to start to improve specific requirements for clients and specific requirements for universities, administrators to see how we can improve the experience using APIs. Well, first we have here the performance scale used for goal alignment. So we want to retrieve these scale data points to allow third-party integration to integrate with Learn and provide more accurate information about the student progress and success. Next, with content collection, we have the opportunity to deliver some capabilities to read content items, store it, and create content collection items. So we will working on, again, on content collection to enhance the content collection API, and we are going to work adding the capability to create, update, and delete resources for content collection. Regarding to server logs, I know that this is something that it's been on the backlog and a while. The good news is that this work is being scoped. So we have plans to start to development to provide the capability to retrieve all the authentication logs, all the system logs, and HTTP logs that we have. In our ongoing process or efforts to streamline integrations within Ontology portfolio, so we have program signature. We will work with Ontology outcomes to retrieve information related to assessments labeled as a secondary program evaluation. This will help identify which tests or assignments are relevant to program level goals. This is more specific to the third parties integration that we have with Ontology. Next, we will provide the APIs to support assessments, create, update, read, or delete, as well the assessment metadata, and questions. Additionally, we will add support for QTI 3.0. This is an area where I will delve deeper to understand well the use case to cover. So I will keep you guys updated to have that discussions related with it. I know that support assessments API is very important because we don't have any capability on that uh, currently, but well, this is now in our plan. Following the recent improvements on in the APIs that we have, we are going also to add the capability to work with activity stream. This will include managing various options available, such as checking grades, reminders, categories, and this is a work in progress that will be fully completed together. So we are going to have several discussions about those items as I just mentioned, but I want to highlight that. Improvements in Gradebook. We will enhance the Gradebook API capabilities, supporting the creation, updating, or delete Gradebook columns. I know that I heard from various for several friends here that this is something that they need for they manage. But before of that, I would like to announce that we are working with a process internally with the Gradebook team to provide the capability as soon as we release the new features in the user interface. So the idea is that we can create the process in where when they release a feature in the user interface, they release as soon as possible the correspondent API to provide manage of that functionality via API. Finally, on this part, we will work to provide API managed course quota. I know that this is something Terry will love to discuss with me and all the team here. This is not something that we have at the end of the list. These are the items that we have to plan to work at the end of this year to start to prioritize those items for the beginning of the next year. And this is our last step in the roadmap session. And this is definitely not prioritized items. I'm just presenting an alphabetic order, but these are items that, as I mentioned, I share to keep you on track with what we have in the list. So we want to provide the ability to revoke or force refresh OAuth tokens, providing the capabilities where you don't have to wait a tokens to expire or to get a new token. Also, we want to add roster indicators, attribute course membership API. The next one is a use case to create an endpoint that use template simulating a snapshot functionality. This is something that I would like to discuss with you later. Next, we want to improve the search capability, including the name assigned to a particular academic term. For content collections, we will review all the options to include alternative references and the ability to upload zip files. This is a work in progress. That work was scoped, but we have to put on hold, and we are like taking back that work. Also, we will work with manage the status of course to set ultra status. This is like a quick, nice to have and a quick win. Let's improve searches. We are going to have multiple searches criteria. We are going to prove the multiple searches criteria, avoid secondary process after retrieving the information. We know that when you retrieve the information, you have to make secondary process after you have all the information. So the things that we like to improve here is that you can select the information that you want to retrieve to avoid secondary process and to improve or optimize the time you spend working on this. And at the end, we have system endpoints. This will improve or increase the amount of details that is available on your system through the system endpoint. So these are the items that we currently have in our list. So so this is what we have for the roadmap for Blackboard and REST APIs. I will take a little of air here. I will see this chat before we move for the following. Really new to get current management is that now manipulate that yesterday. I'm going to keep you a conversation with you and the others. Mark, please add the ability to expand. Okay, Mark, and we'll review that as well. Okay, perfect. So I think that we cover most of the things I know, and I know that we have moved for developer portal. I know that this is something that I discussed last week to have in this meeting. And as you know, we are preparing and working hard to bring you all the improvements and plans that we have for development portal. So at this time, we are going to skip this part for today. However, for the upcoming sessions, we are going to merge the roadmap API and developer portal roadmap together, as Mark used to do that. So we will keep informed about the next step on this. I apologize for any inconvenience, but as I mentioned, we are working very hard to keep the plan online, to see what are the improvements, to collect all the comments or the feedback, to see what are the nice to have, what are the must to have in the roadmap. And after that, I will update you with a session entirely for the dev portal. And after that, we will continue with merging the APIs and dev portal meetings. So we are going to make this preparation. I'm really full sure that that information will be keep you satisfied, and that will be awesome to share with you. That will be the last part that we have for today. Before we finish all this presentation, I would like to continue with the conversation with you. Something that maybe we do not use widely in the API stuff is the use of the idea exchange for share our ideas, for share our needs. So I make this call out to you guys to share your ideas, to share your thoughts in idea exchange. This is great to see how different universities or how different clients collect in one just idea, different point of view. So it's very interesting for us and for you to see what is the needs that other partners has. And as well, I have here the links that always share with you, the developer program, the developer documentation, and the Teaches Slack channel. So that will be for my side for today's meeting. I think that Davey, we are good with the presentation to keep with the time with the guys here and ask and to have the space to question and answers.
All right. Should I then stop the recording then?
Sure, we can
All
finish
right.
that then.